read the light novel of Bungo Stray Dogs, Stormbringer, and I'm going to be just kind of talking about it, reviewing it, and that's obviously why I'm wearing my fedora. It's a little dusty, a little nerdy, but we're fine. So in this light novel, in case anybody, just a little recap here, if it's been a while since you've read it, this takes place about a year after Chuya joins the Port Mafia. He is 16 years old at this point. He is also with kind of a group in the Port Mafia known as Young Bloods, obviously meaning that they are some of the youngest members in the Port Mafia. So they have their own little group, and it starts with them celebrating Chuya being a year in the Port Mafia, telling him that the year is one of the most challenging times for a Port Mafia member. So the fact that he made it a full year and the reputation that he's already had, he deserved a little celebration. So they give him a little party in a pool hall, end up gifting him the possibility of finding out who his actual family is. They find a picture of Chuya with a man, possibly, that could potentially be his father when he was younger, and take a different turn during the story as a man shows up named Adam, who is actually a kind of like a robot AI type person. He's not human, and tells Chuya that there is a guy known as the King of Assassins named Paul who is after him and is saying that he is his older brother. Chuya remembers this guy's name as Paul, who the person that Chuya and Dazai technically took care of and killed in their 15-year arc backstory, who says that he was the one who killed Paul because they were fighting over what to do with Chuya when they took him out of the research facility when he was younger, and technically said that he killed him. So Chuya is like, he had no reason to lie to me, so why are you lying to me? He's dead. So Adam takes Chuya away from the others, tells him, kind of tries to prove to him that Paul is actually alive and is after him and all this stuff. Chuya is like, I am in the Port Mafia, I can handle myself, I don't need you to protect me, whatever. And leaves him. Well, as he's leaving, he has a car pull up saying that the boss of the Port Mafia needs Chuya, so Chuya gets in the car thinking that he's heading to the Port Mafia. And Adam shows up to the car saying, that is not who you think it is Paul. And it is revealed that Paul is actually alive and is after Chuya, saying that he wants him to join him as brothers and leave the Port Mafia. Chuya is like, I'm not leaving the Port Mafia, and is determined to show Chuya that he isn't actually human. And Chuya is wanting to believe that he is human. So he argues with him, has a battle with him, because to Chuya he is human. And Paul is like, well, fine, if you're not going to join with me, then I will kill everyone that is connecting you to the Port Mafia, so that way you will come with me. And Chuya has a realization of his friends at the pool hall called him, saying that there was a car that pulled up, saying that the boss of the Port Mafia needed them. And Chuya realizes that Paul killed, or potentially killed, all of them in the pool hall. It'll last a little bit until Paul is able to get Chuya in a kind of chokehold situation here. And it's shown kind of for the first time, Paul is able to open the gate to cause Chuya to use corruption, and appears to be for the first time. And Chuya is explaining kind of how he feels during it, how he's kind of feels the darkness and kind of alone, and is in this little, just moment of doubt. And he is now starting to say, I don't know what happens to Paul at this point. He just seems like he's gone. I don't know. He is explaining that there is somebody, he can see this dark figure coming towards him that looks like his age, like his body and everything is like his age, and says that there are bandages around his arms. And you realize Dazai has appeared for the first time and saves Chuya from corruption, also for the first time in what it seems like, and gets him on his feet, and then Chuya eventually collapses, like we see him do in the anime. When he uses corruption, he ends up passing out shortly after, due to the extent that it puts on his body. Dazai takes him to the pool hall where his friends were, and it is revealed that they are all dead, except for one who is actually alive and, well, close to death anyway. I think his name is Albatross. I believe I'm saying it correctly. I might not be. Him is close to death, and he tells Chuya that he has a motorcycle that he uses for work and told him he can use it whenever he wants. And that's, I think, how Chuya gets the motorcycle in the beginning of Dead Apple movie, is because it was his. And I kind of think Dazai probably took him there because he knew that's where Chuya would want to go when he woke up, so that's why he left him there. And he always tends to do that. Make sure he's alright and then leaves and disappears. Seems to be a thing for Dazai. But one thing that I liked about this part is that it really reminded me of Dazai and Otasaku. I was sitting there when I was reading this moment. I was like, this is like Dazai and Otasaku. Chuya is basically holding him in his arms as he's dying and blaming himself, wishing he could have gotten there sooner, wishing he was there, maybe he could have helped, and blaming himself for the entire thing. And something in the anime that I've always noticed, members of the Port Mafia always seem like they treat Dazai as a traitor, because technically, to their eyes, he is a traitor to the Port Mafia, because he was an executive and then he left. So, but the only person that I feel like has never treated Dazai that way is Chuya. Chuya always seems like he's treated Dazai the same way, and never really seems like he blames or hates him for leaving the Port Mafia. And after reading this scene, I kind of wonder if Chuya didn't know the real reason what happened with Otasaku, and that he understood why he left because he lost someone that was like Otasaku to Dazai. And that's why Chuya has never treated him any differently, is because Chuya understands the pain that Dazai was feeling in that moment. Even though Chuya didn't leave the Port Mafia, it wasn't the Port Mafia's fault for his death. Unlike Otasaku, it was literally Mori's fault for his death. But for Chuya, I think he understood the reason. If he knew, I assume he probably knows. Maybe the Black Lizard told him, maybe Ongo did. Someone could have told him the truth as to why he left and what happened. And that's why Chuya, when we see them in the anime together, never really seems like he hates him for leaving. He acts happy, but I think he also understood why. And I think it's because of this moment in Stormbringer, because he understands the pain that Dazai dealt with, because he lost someone too that close to him. After this, Chuya ends up deciding to help Adam by basically being bait to get Paul and arrest him, but Chuya is not going to let him arrest him. He is going to kill him, because now he is angry and not happy whatsoever. So, which then leads the fun little journey of trying to figure out who Paul is going to go after next. So they start to put together a possibility of who the next person could be, and it's revealed that it's probably the guy in the flashback of season 3 who stabs Chuya in the back with a poisoned dagger, who was in the sheep, because they thought Chuya betrayed the sheep to join the Port Mafia. So Chuya knows where he is. I don't remember how to pronounce his name, so I'm not going to do it. Y'all know who I'm talking about. And so they go to find him to try to get him to assist them and trying to get Paul, but also saying that we will protect you at the same time. And obviously he doesn't really like Chuya because he still doesn't fully know the truth about what happened that day, and thinks that to him, Chuya is still a traitor to the sheep organization, and they were disbanded shortly after all of that. So he doesn't really want to deal with it. And it also then cuts to Dazai at some point during this, who is, I thought, the shipping container of, like, the fan things of saying that he lived in a shipping container when he was in the Port Mafia. I thought that was just a fan theory that people had, like, oh, I could see Dazai doing that or something. I didn't know he literally was in a shipping container. That's literally what he lived in. I didn't know that. I don't know why he chose to do that when he had apartments that he literally could have stayed at, but you know, it's Dazai, so the man does whatever he wants. Anyway, but it shows Dazai in the shipping container and Paul arriving there, basically admitting that he literally tried to kill Dazai 2 days prior. and that Dazai gave him information to use on the Port Mafia, saying that he wants to see the Port Mafia burn. Now, I didn't believe that for a second because we see him do this in the anime. And in Dead Apple, he pretends to be bad, like turning to the side of Theodore, but really it was to get close and to plan things. And he ends up, that not being true that he did any of that. And Chuya and Adam, who are still arguing with this guy, he then goes to the police station because he tells Chuya and Adam that he's going to rebuild the sheep and has weapons at his house to try to do so. And the police arrive to arrest him for the weapons that they found in his house, and even try to take Chuya and Adam, because Chuya is a member of the Port Mafia, and the detective that's there actually wants to try to help Chuya get out of the Port Mafia. So he wants him to try and get him out of it. And I liked kind of all of that because you could tell that detective cares about Chuya, but I think it was also funny too when he tries to give him the plea deal and is like, you both can leave if you both sign this and you give us information on the Port Mafia. And Chuya, you kind of think is going to sign it. He gets a pen, acts like he's writing his signature, but then when he gives it back, the signature line says, eat shit. Which I felt like that was very Chuya. I really want him to do that in the anime really bad. During all of this, it ends up showing Paul at some point arriving to try and kill the guy that he's after. And him and Chuya again have a epic battle. Chuya really does seem to hold his own decently this time, but still ends up not working. But it's then shown that Paul wasn't actually after the guy they thought he was. He was after the detective and killed the detective. Chuya, having to watch this detective die after just watching or seeing and witnessing his friends die, now has to see this, and it pushes him even further over the edge. Adam ends up getting overridden by In, saying that if he tells Chuya the truth, then maybe Paul won't have a reason to kill both of them. So he tells him where he is and wants to meet them in order to tell Chuya everything and the truth. So there are some stuff that I am not going to say, just a little bit, just to not give too much away for people who maybe haven't read this, or maybe you haven't read the entire thing. I don't want to spoil too much for you. So I am going to kind of skip over some stuff. There's some stuff I haven't said. So it'll give you a good reason to go find out. Just saying. Anyway, so they end up going to that location where In says that he's at, and the first clue should probably be the fact that it's so well guarded, and you literally have to have your blood drawn just to get access into the building. Probably should have been their first clue. But anyway, so they meet In, who Chuya ends up recognizing as the guy in the picture that his friends gave him in the beginning of the novel, and him saying that the In stands for Nakahara, and says that he's technically Chuya's father. Tells Chuya and the other two, Adam and the other guy that I can't remember his name, kind of a story about the singularity and how that was tied into the research of Chuya and Paul. I didn't fully understand it. I had to read it a few times to kind of at least get somewhat of an idea. But as he is explaining the singularity and how certain abilities could have that, he basically uses Dazai's ability as an example and says, if a person with a nullification ability who can get rid of an ability by a touch, what do you think their singularity would be? And Chuya says maybe amplifying the ability that they're touching. And I'm like, nobody's talking about the fact that he just used Dazai's ability as an example. Chuya didn't even question it. And I thought that was really interesting that he basically used Dazai's ability as a example of that. They are going into this facility deeper and deeper down. All of a sudden, Chuya is separated from Paul and the other guy and is only now within. And says, going forward, Chuya needs to be the only one to see this, which makes Adam very suspicious. And I think I said Paul, I meant Adam. And he ends up finding that they replicated the place that Chuya was at making it exactly how it was when he was there. And Chuya starts to deal with a little bit of PTSD from seeing that and remembering when he was in there and remembering moments of Paul and I don't remember his name, and the guy from season 3 that took him out of the facility, and he deals with major problem with that. Chuya is having a lot of problems because he's now poisoned and starts to basically get tortured again by In and deals with a lot of problems during all of that. And meanwhile, Adam is trying to figure out what to do because now this guy is was poisoned, trying to figure out how to help him, trying to figure out how to get to Chuya. When, of course, who shows up at the moment he's needed? Dazai appears with a stun gun and stunning people as he walks over. And basically tells Adam that he was the one who gave Paul the information he needed because he needed time to get Mori away because his original first target was going to be Mori himself. So he needed to buy time in order to save his boss and then got involved when it was necessary. And even though that's not really a good look for Dazai, I feel like in a way he was trying to save his boss, but then also I think also probably knew if he hadn't have given this information to Paul, Paul would have figured it out anyways. So I think the outcomes could have been the same either way. But knowing Dazai, he probably thought every possible scenario in order to protect their boss, and I'm sure he tried to see if he could protect everyone else. At some point during all of this, Dazai, Chuya ends up getting out of the situation that he was in and ends up slightly fights Paul again. Because of the condition he's in, he didn't really do very well. Kind of got hit through walls. Paul took In a way to either kill him or to try and get some information out of him. And they are trying to find out where Paul and In are. They're trying to get out. He then runs into Adam and Dazai, who are also looking for him. And I like the fact that Chuya, as a way of punishment for Dazai, keeps tying him up and like making him fall or like spin around to the point that he ends up getting sick because he's constantly being spun around as Dazai is trying to explain himself to everyone or something and the plans that he came up with. And I was like, I love that was the punishment to Dazai. I kind of wish they like did like a illustration of it in here. I think that would have been funny to see. A lot of those moments as this is happening, it also has Paul ends up leaving In to go to this train, and it's revealed that Mori is on the train to get to a safer destination. And Paul believes that he actually kills Mori, but actually it wasn't Mori at all. It was a double to look like him, and Mori is somewhere else safe and fine on his own. And it was a plan by, of course, Dazai, who ends up arriving all of a sudden, and a lot of other members of the Port Mafia are there as well to try to take Paul down. So they have a huge battle there. Chuya is recovering from what he dealt with at the other place and ends up arriving with Adam as well at some point to help. Ends up using the form that he has. I don't remember what it was called. Forgot. Like how Chuya has Arahabaki, he has something similar in him and ends up activating the true form of that ability and singularity that he has, and is this huge creature thing that is going towards Yokohama. And Chuya and Dazai are now together and trying to come up with a plan on how to stop this creature thing. Dazai end up coming up with a plan for Chuya to use his corruption again in order to try and stop Paul and save Yokohama. But before he goes to do that, Dazai actually gives him a moment to decide what to do, because he tells Chuya that if he does this, they won't be able to find out if he is truly human or not, because that will somehow get rid of any memory that he might have, and will cause him to not remember and won't be able to get anything out if he does this. Meaning that if he goes through with it and saves Yokohama in the way and the plan that they have, it's likely that he will never know the truth. And Dazai actually puts it on hold. This creature thing is going towards Yokohama. There's no pausing, but yet he gives Chuya the option to make that decision on his own. And when Dazai turns around as he's leaving, he sees that Chuya is no longer there. Meaning that Chuya chose to save Yokohama instead of trying to learn the truth for the first time. Willingly do that. I do like that Dazai did that for him. It's possible he knew he was going to do it anyway, but it's still the fact that he gave him the choice. I think Dazai does that for Chuya. He never just tells him, hey, use corruption. I mean, he at least gives him every scenario possible and then lets him choose himself if he wants to do it or not. I think he does that in the battle with Lovecraft in season 2 or 3. I think it's 2. Where he says, we could either fight and die or we can run and die. And even though Chuya feels like he doesn't have a choice, I think Dazai still at least gives him the opportunity to make that decision on his own, even though he knows he might do it anyways. But Chuya also knows Dazai is going to save him at the end of it. After they save the day in Yokohama, Paul ends up surviving that, but he ends up becoming a trainer for the Port Mafia in terms of people to train to become assassins. So he trains Gin Atagawa and Kyoka, which I thought was really cool. And very interesting to me to know that he did that. And eventually it kind of does a time skip at some point to when Chuya becomes a executive of the Port Mafia. And as a gift to him, Mori discovers a family that could potentially be Chuya's real family. And Chuya has a moment of, what I think, deciding to accept the fact that to him he is human. And even if he's not human now, he was at some point. And I think he is able to accept that and decides to not go meet them. And when Mori's like, well, don't you want to meet them? Chuya says, the Port Mafia is my family. And I think that's why in the anime we see him so loyal to the Port Mafia, is because of what Mori did for him in that moment of becoming an executive. It explains Chuya in the anime as well. The version of Chuya that we meet in the show has accepted his past, knows the truth. The tie-ins of Dazai in it too. I feel like even though, Dazai technically kind of gave some information out to Paul, and Chuya is mad at him for that, I think Chuya also understands Dazai, even at this point, more than anyone else. And I think even though he was mad, I think he understood why Dazai did it all, and why he ends up only giving him a little bit of a torturement, and then doesn't really seem like it bothered him anymore. I also feel like you get glimpses of that in the show too. When you first meet Chuya, Dazai was taken by Kyoka and put in their little prison thing, and people are like, oh, we got Dazai, we got the traitor. Did you really? Chuya's like, no, it would not have been that easy to take Dazai. If he wanted to be taken, then yeah, it would have been simple, and he knows that. And confronts Dazai, I know you're planning something. I'm not an idiot. It would have been harder to take you if you were actually not wanting to be taken. So what's going on here? And I do honestly feel like that they have good understanding, and I think the show shows that. Yeah, they act like they hate each other. Yeah, they act like they want to kill each other, but I think if it came to one of them just having to kill the other, I don't think they could do it. I don't think Dazai would be able to, and I don't think Chuya would be able to. And I think it's because of the past that they have together, and I think even in the anime, having Chuya see Dazai actually being a better person, actually not being the darkness that he once saw. He does know the truth as to why Dazai left. Like I said before, I think that's why Chuya treats him the way that he does in the anime, is because he does understand why he left. I I believe that Chuya is human. I really believe that, even if the situation could be back and forth, could make you believe that he is or isn't. I believe that he is, and so does Dazai, and I do like that as well. Dazai believes that Chuya is human. He says this in here, and he even calls him human in the anime. He says he's such a wonderful human being, and to me, that's also why Chuya and Dazai have such a good connection, is because Dazai has never seen him as, not human. Honestly, reading this light novel made me love Chuya even more than I already did. He is my second favorite character in the show, and my second favorite anime man in general, obviously next to Dazai, but honestly, this probably put Chuya almost tying with Dazai because I loved this a lot. I think anybody who loves Chuya, I think will love this light novel. Even if you're not too sure, like maybe he isn't one of your top favorites, I think you will still like it anyway, and he might actually become higher for you because of that. I love the illustration too. I think the cover is pretty cool, and the illustrations that they put in here, I think are really cool. You can really kind of get a glimpse of how much of the emotion in the scene too. My favorite is probably, of course, the one of Dazai and Chuya. This one. I think that one's my favorite. I like the smirk, but also Dazai turning around and realizing, oh, he's already gone. Like, show off. I think he even calls him a show off. I believe, afterwards. I think you should go check this light novel out. I think it's really good. I like kind of the learning more about Chuya and kind of understanding a little bit more of his journey in the Port Mafia and his relationship with Dazai. I think it really gives a good understanding of these two as well. Even though Dazai isn't in it as much, he's more at the end, but I think it really kind of helps understand a little bit of their history and stuff. And yeah, go check it out if you want to. It took me a little bit to find it, but maybe it's more available in other places. The next one I am going to be doing is Beast. I have all three besides the fourth volume, so I'm going to wait till I find the fourth volume. Once I find it, I'll probably actually start reading it. But that will be the next one that I will be doing. Let me know if you have read this light novel, and let me know what you think in the comments. And go subscribe and follow my channel. Go check out my TikTok as well. It's under the same name. It's Shelby.Osamu. I think it's in my channel bio in YouTube. So happy you are here. Believe it.